Okay, good evening, everybody. Let's call to order this October 25th, 2021 regular business meeting of Board of School Trustees, held in public with a start time of 6 o'clock. To order, we'll ask if everyone may please rise. We'll ask Mr. Hoffman to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We promise this is the flag that wasn't born on January 6th.
Okay, let's start our meeting with the Board of School Trustees Resolution and Commendation Awards. Item 2.1 this evening is Crown Point High School Athletic Department for winning the 2020-2021, the DAC Boys and Girls All Sports Trophy. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Hoffman and second by Mr. Angel. Any questions or comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 5-0, and I will present that commendation. Would you want to wrap around the front and? I guess.
There's cameras all over, so.
So this is quite an award, and excited to see you all here this evening. We weren't sure if I was almost anticipating to see Mr. Brewer. Let me read through the names. Not everybody's present, but those of you who are, will we have individual foundations? It's just going to be presented to the boys and girls? Okay. All right, so let me repeat that. So the resolution of commendation. The Crown Point Board of School Trustees is honored to commend the Crown Point High School Athletic Department for meritorious achievement. Be it hereby resolved that the Board of School Trustees for the Crown Point Community School Corporation wishes to express sincere congratulations to the Crown Point High School Athletic Department for being the recipient of the 2021 Boys and also the Girls DAC All Sports Trophy. The Board of School Trustees publicly recognizes this achievement and renders it permanently to its minutes to be preserved for public posterity. It is 25th day of October 2021. And I'm going to read through our coaches. If you're present, please let everyone know you're here. We have Mr. Marcinek, principal. Mr. Drula, athletic director, Bill Drula. First name in there, sorry. Matt McCaleb, our assistant athletic director. Mary Roth, athletic secretary. And the boys coaches, we had Steve Sprayer. Coach Clint Swan. Eric Forehand. Correct pronunciation. Kevin Enright. Mike Bazin. Ryan Bishop. Carl Davis. Brandon Lorick. Brian Ingerman. Nick Bruno. And Mark Garrett. And for the girls' coaches, we had Angie Richwalski, Chris Siebert, Allie Florick, Allison Duncan, Chris Mykert, Jennifer Vinovich, Brian Elston, Amy Pish, and Brian Angerman. Now, as a board member a handful of years ago, when I heard about this award, I think we might have just knocked off Valpo for the first time in many years, and I remember catching the accomplishment of being named the DAC All Sports Award, and now to have boys and girls in a few years running. Mr. Drilla, can you give us any more on?
It's our goal that year to win this All Sports Trophy. We've won 11 of them now. This is the first year that we won both boys and girls at the same time. So we compete in a really competitive conference. But to win that is a testament to our coaches, our athletes. We get great support from Mr. Marcinek as our principal, from our district office as well, supporting athletics, and we have a great program. Coach Pesh just came in, our gymnastics coach. Come on up, Amy. So for us, it's a big accomplishment, and it's our goal every year to win that all sports trophy, which means you're the best in the conference all around, essentially.
Obviously, it's something for all of us to take pride in, but for all of you here, I hope you understand how much appreciation goes from us to you and our community and the students and the student athletes that put in so much time to put into extracurriculars in Crown Point to see all that labor be noticed. Right? Board members, anybody like to offer anything?
I would just like to add, obviously being on the board for some years now, the greatest thing you could see is sometimes the tally board when you walk in by the athletic office, and it shows where all the schools are ranked based on their performances. So for those of you that don't know, this award goes to, if you finish first in the conference, you get so many points all the way down to last, which fortunately we're never in that position. And it rates all boys sports and the girls sports, and that's how the award's given out based on the most points. So the more success you have at any one of those varsity sport levels, obviously the more points you get. And to achieve this accomplishment of winning both boys and girls is outstanding. I know how much each one of these individuals and those that aren't here take their sport seriously and are achieving, obviously, for student success, but also trying to win and try to finish on top of the conference. So kudos goes to all those individuals. It's always one thing I always take a glance at when I'm there for a basketball game in the wintertime. Obviously, the football season, you're not walking in, but just kind of see how the season's playing out for this upcoming year, see where everything's at. So just on behalf of myself and the rest of the board, congratulations to all of you. And we do appreciate your hard work behind the scenes, because we know it's never easy sometimes when we're either rebuilding or struggling one year, and you guys take that to heart and live with that, and sometimes some sleepless nights. So we greatly appreciate that you're looking out for the best of our student athletes here at Crown Point.
Another thing, sportsmanship is included in this as well as just,
No,
this is the difference.
this sportsmanship is an IHSAA award, but we usually get that here, but
Right.
yeah, this is-
And now that I know 10 games, I got a better chance of winning.
Right. Mr. Brillo, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Warney. Thanks, board,
Thank you.
Todd, everybody.
Thank all of you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, no, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Item 3, we have patrons' comments. Patrons registered to comment on educational issues. We do have a handful this evening, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9. I think it's been beneficial the past few meetings to read the rules for comment and what will take place. So the guidelines. The board will hear patrons, legal residents in Center Township or Winfield Township wishing to comment on educational issues at the regular business meeting of the Board of School Trustees held in public. Patrons must sign the sheet provided in the back of the room prior to the start of the meeting. When their names are called to address the board, they will move to the podium in front of the room, state their names, spell them for record-keeping purposes, also state their address and the topic that will be addressed. If patrons have prepared written statements on the topic, they may present at this time. A time limit of 3 minutes is allowed for each speaker. We'll ask Mr. Angel to be our clock keeper. He will probably give you a warning at 30 seconds and then I'll give you a buzz to be finished at 3 minutes. The portion of the meeting during which the participation of the public is invited shall be limited to 20 minutes unless extended by a vote of the board. Speakers are to refrain from speaking on personal issues and student issues. So, thank you, and we can begin with Sarah Miller. So, Sarah, as stated, would you please come to the podium, and can we just get your name and address, please, and the topic you're speaking on?
Yes, Sarah Miller, and 6224 West 136th Avenue in Cedar Lake, and I'm speaking on the COVID policy issue. Do I start now? All right, so I want to say I appreciate that you guys have taken a conservative stance in regards to the initial back-to-school plan, after-school activities, and your stated desires for parent choices. Parents are intended to be primary caregivers. We make all major decisions for our children, including medical, and this should be the case at school as well. We're at a crossroads right now. Government agencies, including the CDC, have been overreaching for decades, but now they are treating our kids like government property. They have no right to force medical devices such as masks on kids. We already know they are ineffective, but that aside, I'm taking you at your word that when you say the main roadblock to mask optional is the contact tracing order. When Governor Holcomb renewed the so-called state of emergency for the 19th time, he instructed the State Department of Health to issue school guidance. And the Indiana Code 16-41-2-1 is what they cited as grounds of legal authority. However, upon review of Chapter 16, it becomes clear their policy is not being legally implemented, because under Article 41, Chapter 9, Section 1.5, it states, if a public health authority has reason to believe an individual has been infected or exposed to a serious communicable disease, they are to petition a circuit or superior court for an order to impose quarantine. So with this procedure in place, I could guarantee there'd be no more mass quarantines. Excuse me. So I'm urging you to be brave and take a stand for parental rights, like the Griffith School District, which I know has been brought up. And I know there is heavy government pressure and bribes occurring, hopefully not within Crown Point. But the American Rescue Plan has flooded the nation's schools with massive sums of money, and our state's own application strongly referenced universal masking and a vaccine campaign. So I trust you will take a firm stand against forced vaccination as well. And I'll note now that Indiana Code 16-41-9-1.7 says immunizations cannot be given without consent and without parental consent for kids. And if we give up autonomy over our bodies, then we surely have nothing. Myself and countless other parents are in this battle for the long haul. We have given you guys the benefit of the doubt up until now, and we know you have the power to make changes. So I hope you'll make those changes, which you know are the right thing, and spare us from furthering a lawsuit with the district.
Thank you, Sarah. Rocco DeLuca.
Rocco DeLuca, 12923 Knight Street, Cedar Lake, Indiana, 46303. And I'm here to speak out about the masks and quarantine policies. Unfortunately, I didn't prepare a speech the way she did. This is the first time I've been to one of these. And but I do want to say I did do my homework on it because my son decided to pull his mask off. He got in trouble with Mr. Bowders. Mr. Bowders called me, and we went back and forth. And I've spoken with Mr. Marcinek on this. He says, you know, talk to the district. I spoke to the superintendent. He says it's all on the executive order. I've read through the executive order, and I've read all subsequent documents that the executive order points to, including CO 21-01, which is basically just a recommendation for how pharmacies administer vaccines. The contact tracing thing to me is it's kind of a weak excuse at this point to continue using an apparatus, which I call a speech muffler, because it really, to me, it's the government hand over your mouth. You know, shut your mouth, do as you're told. And we're doing this to our kids, the future generations. And I'm not raising my son to be subservient. I'm raising him to be a freedom-loving, independent patriot who's strong and goes out and gets his. So I've also looked at another document, coronavirus.in.gov/2400.htm. And again, that's another document that doesn't say anything about masks. Everywhere I go, it all boils back down to the CDC at the federal level. And all the CDC is doing is recommending things. So we have an executive order by the governor's office, who never calls me back. And that recommendation is now being implemented with more and more consequences with each step of the way. When do we stand up and use what power we have to start pushing back? When do we protect our kids? When do we as a school say, hey, enough's enough? You know, I'm a construction worker. I've got 40 hours of MSHA training, 40 hours of combined OSHA training, and out of those 80 total hours, I'd say about 40 of them are focused on respiratory safety. And anyone in this room who works in a safety-sensitive position knows that I'm telling you the truth, especially if you're MSHA certified. We know these masks are not adequate for protection. So why are we using them? I mean, and if there is any logical reason for why this board is implementing these mandates, can you at least put it down as a document that shows the roadmap? Okay, can you at least show us in writing what the roadmap is, where all of this starts from? The document where it is in writing, what scientific studies have been performed? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rocco. Elizabeth Tricka?
Good evening, I'm Elizabeth Tricka. My address is 3826 West 106th Lane in Crown Point. I have 3 children now in the Crown Point School Court. And I want to address again and appeal to your better senses to come with a new perspective towards these COVID regulations, the mask guidelines, and look at the information that we've talked about, learned about, heard about before, and take a stand on it. So I recommend that the school corporation return to a mask optional policy, and recommending and insisting on the use of masks as a medical device puts you in a position that you're unlawfully practicing medicine, because you're not medical professionals here, or I don't think that Dr. Terrell is a medical doctor. So we shouldn't be prescribing medical devices on our children. And quarantine also is unconstitutional. It's illegal to force quarantine on close contacts. A quarantine of close contacts should be optional. And maybe we could think about utilizing symptom screening to better come at this. So young people are at virtually no risk of dying from COVID or transmitting it to others. I know we've said all these things before, but let's look at it again. Let's stop following the governor's orders that don't make sense. Let's use our brains and our judgment to make these good choices for our decisions and choices for our children. The overall survival rate is 99.997%. Students are at nearly 0% risk of contracting or transmitting this illness. And it said they can act as buffers, and it may help themselves and others to build their immune system. So the COVID virus attaches and replicates on the ACE2 receptors of the cells. And these ACE2 receptors are very minimal in young people. And that's why they get the virus so mildly. These ACE2 receptors in the respiratory tract will eventually increase in numbers throughout adulthood. So that's why adults will get it more severely. Now, natural immunity is also far stronger and longer lasting than the vaccine, which was created against only one part of the virus. When you have natural immunity, you're exposed to every part of the virus, and your body will create antibodies against it. And it will enhance your ability to recognize and fight this virus off and any other coronaviruses, because we know there are many variants, and this is a whole family of viruses that have many types. Oh, man, I got a lot more to say. All right. So we are medically and legally concerned about this mask policy in place. They're ineffective. Let's see. By promoting the use of a non-FDA approved, because masks are only also emergency use authorized. This is unwarranted and illegal. It's in direct conflict with the Nuremberg Code. And let's see. So please stop directing our children to follow these orders.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Beth Urim?
My name is Beth Urim, and I'm at 12461 Pennsylvania Place, Crown Point. I'm pretty much covering a lot of what these guys have said. But first of all, the school board does not have the authority to quarantine without an order from the health department. To date, it has only been a recommendation. If the health department issues a quarantine, it cannot be implemented without a court order issued and signed by a judge. It is Dr. Vavilala's responsibility to obtain a court order for each individual who is being required to quarantine. Governor Holcomb's EO regarding schools that mask up by reducing contact tracing from 6 feet to 3 feet is disingenuous at best. A mask is a medical device only to be prescribed by a medical doctor, which he is not. My opening statements regarding quarantining nullify his executive order per Indiana code. There is really no need to debate the efficacy of masks on whether they help to stop the spread or the monumental harm masks are doing to our children. There is plenty of research available that these matters, and I hope you all have done your due diligence. I am up here to state the law, and according to the state of Indiana, this board is not following the law. I want to let you know that I will not use my son as a political pawn. I respectfully ask that neither do you. He is a 15-year-old kid, and these issues are heavy for a boy his age. Perhaps if he was taught a better understanding of our Constitution and our Bill of Rights, he would be here with me stating just how unconstitutional the handling of this situation truly is. I have heard the board state that the decisions are made for the good of my kids, and you have their best interest in mind. You may say this is not political, but again, I respectfully disagree. In my opinion, if it is truly about the kids, you would absolutely look at all the scientific facts, the pandemic, and how the division on these issues are affecting them. Eric Holcomb and the Lake County have played Pontius Pilate by putting the decisions in your hands. Unless you, as individual board members, are medical doctors, you have no authority prescribing a mask. The only way you legally have the authority to mandate masks is if you implement it as part of the dress code. In closing, masks are a medical device, and in regard to quarantine, protocol is not being followed per Indiana code. Ultimately, my hope is that this board will take all of this into consideration before I take legal action against the board and its members for violating my son's constitutional rights. Thank you for your time.
I could make a quick recommendation to the board to extend this session for 10 minutes. We have a couple speakers that have come in that did not make the sheet, but also we have a couple on here that look like they're off the topic of COVID and masking. Do we have a motion to approve that extension of 10 minutes?
Second.
Is that moved by Scott Babjack? I missed it. Moved by Scott Babjack, second by Scott Angel. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so Ms. Green will extend the limit by 10 minutes. I think that'll take care of everything. Next up, we have Nick Santostefano.
All right, my name is Nick Santostefano, 3099 West 136th Avenue. I'm sure, or I hope all of you know about what we found out about Griffith. I'd emailed it to the board. I know a lot of people, it circulated online, but I wanted to read it so everyone could rehear exactly what their superintendent said and what they're doing there. So I have a friend that emailed Griffith schools about their COVID policies because she had heard that Griffith had an optional mask policy and they were not quarantining healthy kids. And this is the response she got from their superintendent. She said, "Good morning. Yes, ma'am. You are correct. Masks are optional for all staff and students district-wide. We have consistently had a low positivity rate. I believe our parents and staff have a right to make this decision. Have a great day." She emailed back and asked, "Well, are you quarantining then?" The response she got from the Griffith superintendent was, "You can view our positivity rate at the end of each week on our school webpage. We update each Friday. You can see we have been below 1% each week in each building and district-wide since the first week of school. Quarantining, our board attorney has reviewed the governor's orders, Lake County Health Department guidelines, and is confident that our return to learn plan is legal. We do not quarantine adults and students that are not sick. We do inform all parents of those that were in potential close contact of a positive case. Parents have a right to quarantine their own children. Parents have a right to test their children. Parents also have a right to vaccinate or not vaccinate their children. My recommendation to the board continues to remain the same. Parents and staff have a right to make a choice to best meet the individual needs of their children and family. Quarantine healthy students adversely impacts their right to a free, appropriate public education. I continue to monitor our positivity rate closely. We have allowed for all activities to go as normal throughout our district, and our students are thriving. About 90% of our staff and students do not mask. Some staff and students mask. We respect personal choice. We are in this together. She adds, please know that when making this recommendation, I only look at what is best for our community and student population. I do not assume to understand the challenges presented in other districts. She mentioned under 1% positive rate. So I took the COVID impact data for Crown Point, which every week we've had far under 1%. Our highest week would be week 3, we had 0.56. And to compare where Griffith was last week to where we were, Griffith had a 3-day week, and they were at a 0.564%. Our week last week, for a 3-day week, we were at 0.071%, which is far lower than Griffith. So I'm really having a hard time understanding why Griffith can get away with doing this and we can't do it here in Crown Point. That's all I got.
Thank you, Nick. Bill McCall.
Hi, I'm Bill McCall. I live on 1215 Cheyenne Drive in Crown Point. Well, I feel a little out of place speaking now. I'm not speaking about COVID, but not to take away from their important comments. I sent an email out to each one of you regarding the Crown Point lacrosse team. And I'm here to read my email if you need that or to answer any questions.
We're not allowed to do our board policies. It's not an opportunity to have interaction back and forth, but you could read us your comments, or if you'd like to read your email, that'd be fine, but.
Sorry.
Yeah, if you have anything that you want to add to it, I can tell you that we've all read it. We all saw it. We've had discussion about it, but if you have anything else that you want to add, this would be a good time.
Well,
Just make sure, did you pause that, Scott?
We're good.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to bring it a highlight to speak out now. Actually, today in 30 minutes, we're having our call-out meeting over at Trinity. I just wanted to highlight the fact that we're an all Crown Point team, and we want to represent the school. We take the field each time with Crown Point on our chest and go out there in red and white and go and say "Go Bulldogs." But I was the captain, so I feel like this is important. I know a lot of the guys on the team want to play for their school and want to represent it. And I also know a lot of students that have no idea what lacrosse is and would love to see a game. I guess I'm talking to you now because I'm jealous of all these other schools, all the indie schools, LaPorte, Chesterton, and Penn. They all have their backing of their school, and I'd like that. It's also the growth of the game. Lacrosse is kind of a minor sport. It's bigger out east where it's through the schools. A new pro league was just made, but I want the next generation, maybe I won't see it, hopefully my kid will, we'll see that Crown Point embraces this new sport and gives it all it can do, because we drive down to Indy almost every week with our own cars. We don't have our own school buses like all these other teams. So that's also a safety factor that I'd like to bring up. But it's mainly that I just wanted to bring it to your attention again. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bill. Kaylee Chicky.
Kaylee Chicky, and I live at 13454 Cardinal Lane. I don't have a speech prepared. I basically don't even really know why I'm here, because nobody is listening to anything that any of these people have to say. I've been to 3 of these meetings by now, and I can see you guys all laughing at us and ignoring us, and these points that people have been making multiple times, and no one is listening. So I don't really know what else I'm supposed to say. I'm just here because these masks are ridiculous, and we're not in China. We're not covering up our faces because it's some religious anything. they're pointless, and you guys know that, so.
Is it, next we had, is it Choi, I'm sorry, I pronounced it wrong.
Sounds like engine. My address is 1411 Brookside Drive, number 1, Munster, Indiana. My daughter going to Lake Street Elementary School.
Let
And
me interrupt you for 1 second. The board, we've understand the circumstances that your address here, that you have a child in the school system. We've heard from you before, and I just feel it worth noting that we're okay with you speaking without the Crown Point address.
thank you so much. And Mr. Harmon and Dr. Todd and board member, I'm here for addressing equal access to RDS as a mom. According to you, the registration function of RDS can only be given to the one parent who lives within the school boundary. My RDS access if for the student information. Where is a policy stating that the parent who live within the school boundary to access the registration information? RDS website state that the RDS student information software is the backbone for all your student all information, including medical record and then every information. Make your IT staff job easier to web-based teacher module and parent access, student course, and etc. Security access can be tailored to an individual user's job functions such as read-only, read-write, administration, or no access to specific features. Different access right can be granted for single or multi-building or district-wide. Ability to build the new user security rights using previously defined user security settings. Based on the above, RDS can tailor my security right to see the registration information. Crown Point School Corporation has chosen not to give me equal access to see my daughter's school information. As a mom, why should it be that difficult and even to see my daughter's grading and access to survey as a mom? I had to ask for over 1 year. Indiana Code 2033-72, each parent should obtain school information on their own without depending on one parent. For sure, the absence of action is discriminatory practice. There is no rule in the RDS or school system that defines only one parent who live in the school district allowed to full access. This is a violation of federal and state law. If I am different gender or different ethnic is already addressed and issue is resolved, please stop saying it is a system issue. It is not. Please comply the law. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Choi. And do we have somebody that did not have an opportunity to sign a sheet? I think Ms. Green mentioned. You could step forward and just, if you weren't here, state your name and address, please, and the matter you wish to speak on.
Tom Christoff, I live at 3784 Kingsway Drive. And the matter that I wish to speak on are the mask and COVID restraints. I understand that there's things that you can and you can't do. If you don't set the policy, then that's fine. If there's something that you're hearing from these people, you can make sure that their sentiments are heard to the people who do set the policy. I hear a lot of anger, a lot of upsetness, and a loss of legitimacy towards this board because a lot of people feel that what they are saying is dying right here. If you have the ability to do something, take that ability. Respond to what they're saying. If you don't have the ability, forward their comments to those who do. This board is the face of this school district. If the board lets all of this stuff die right here, then there's complete loss of legitimacy, complete loss of respect. And that's what these people are looking for you. They're looking for you to hear what they're saying. And if you can't do anything about it, send it to who can. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. We had extended the time for one more speaker. Did we have somebody else that would like to speak? Make comment. No? We'll conclude that session of the meeting. Move to, yes, you're welcome to, you're welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting if you'd like. If you want to take this opportunity to leave, that'd be fine now too. We're just going to move on to consent agenda with Dr. Terrell.
Thank you. For your consideration this evening, our consent agenda, we have several different meeting minutes that are listed in 4.1. 4.2 is our Title I grant. 4.3 is our Indiana Literacy Early Intervention Grant. 4.4 is our Alternative Ed Grant. Then we're also asking for your approval on Resolution 793 with the responsible bidder resolution as amended. 4.6, our personnel agenda, and then 4.7, the registered checks as they are presented.
Thank you, Dr. Terrell. You've heard the recommendation to approve the consent agenda as presented. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hoffman and second by Mr. Smith. Any questions or comments for Dr. Terrell?
As far as you know, Dr. Terrell or Mr. Hardman, any changes on dollars that grants, those grants that reoccurred from last year that would affect us?
There wasn't anything significant in the changes, actually, with the Title I. Somewhat pleased that it hovered right around the 500,000, just under the 500,000. That was the one maybe that we thought maybe we'd see a decrease in. But overall, I think they were pretty comparable to what we've had.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Dr. Terrell? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We have action items this evening. 5.1, the out-of-country field trip to Germany. Mr. Hardman.
Thank you, Mr. Warney. Seeking your approval tonight for a out-of-country field trip to Germany scheduled for June 2022. This is being sponsored by Candace Carey and Heidi Merrick. Candace has done a number of these trips at a previous school district as well as at Crown Point Community School Corporation. This one is a little bit unique in that in the past she would tie it into a exchange program in Germany, but because of some COVID restrictions, we cannot do an exchange in Germany, but we can at the same time have students do go to Germany on this field trip. She will be the sponsor of it. She has outlined for you the schedule for the time of the flight, the insurance that's there, the COVID restrictions that are being followed by Crown Point Community School Corporation. As always, as we approach the timing of the trip, we always monitor the travel guidance from the State Department of the United States to make sure our kids are safe at all time. So at this point in time, I'd like to recommend that you approve the out-of-country field trip for our Crown Point High School students to travel to Germany in June of 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Hardman. You've heard the recommendation as Ms. Hardman presented to approve the out-of-country field trip for Crown Point High School students to travel to Germany in June of 2022. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve, subject to any restrictions that may be applicable at the time of the trip.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hoffman and second by Mr. Angel. Any questions or comments for Mr. Hardman? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And 5.2, interactive panels for Winfield Elementary. Back to Mr. Hardman.
Thank you. Thank you again, Mr. Warney. Last year, we had a group of administrators, teachers, specialists in the area kind of technology. As we looked at the future, 2021 and beyond, a couple of the items that we identified that are part of this recommendation were the interactive screens, large interactive screens. In this case, we're looking at an 86-inch interactive screen for all of our classrooms at Winfield, as well as having a webcam that's associated with that so that for instruction, we are able to have the opportunity to project students in a distance learning kind of a format. We also wanted to include in that the document cameras, because the document cameras that we currently have are not the type that really interact with the type of technology that we're looking at. If you want to know about an 86-inch screen, think of a screen such as what you see here in each classroom. And I don't even think these are 86-inch. I think these are probably around 75, so they would be even larger than this. And they're interactive screens, meaning touch screen. They are basically computers that students would be able to interact with and their teachers. We can also project images from a student's Chromebook to the interactive screen, which increases dialogue and increases learning and problem solving for our students. So we did put this out for bid for the 50 interactive screens and the document cameras, webcams, and also mounting stands. It's not a cart, because it might be, you might think of a cart as being something large, but this is just a stand that it sits on and it can adjust, because I want you to think about a kindergarten being able to touch it. We don't want them to reach high to get it. They got to have it down to their level. So we did want to make sure that we had the adjustable stands for our students. When we put this out to bid, the low bid in this case was Troxel Communications Incorporated. They came in at $302,050 and seeking your approval of this this bid and this purchase this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Harmon. Heard recommendation. The administration recommends approval to purchase 50 clear touch 86-inch interactive panels, document cameras, webcams, and adjustable mount carts from Trox at $302,050. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Angel and second by Mr. Babjak. Any questions or comments from Mr. Harmon?
Expected installation and operation?
I think Mr.
What was that question, sir?
When do we anticipate installation, and when will these be effective?
December.
Is this technology the first in the elementary schools for our school corporation?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I would add, I had the opportunity to talk to Mr. Gill, I think after the last board meeting, or maybe 2 board meetings ago. We're just talking about the simple podium that we have here and some of the technology that the students can, or teachers can teach the students with now. So I know Mr. Gill is pretty excited, and we were just talking about what the podium can do. Any other questions or comments from Mr. Harmon?
Probably need a 1-year tutorial.
A couple-year tutorial, yeah. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harmon and Mr. Gill. 5.3, lease, district copiers. Mr. Akiba.
Thank you, Mr. President. The issue at hand here is the replacement of our current aging copiers. Our current hardware's approaching 12 years old. It's past its useful life from an equipment perspective. We are looking to replace our aging monochrome copiers, in addition to providing new equipment that will allow for some color reproduction as well. We've put out for bids, and we'd like to ask the school board to approve a lease of 35 monochrome and 13 color copiers from Ricoh USA at a quarterly payment of $21,855 for 7 years. Ricoh will give us a credit for our current equipment of $36,000 for our old fleet, if you will. That can be applied to this particular lease and the cost of the paper cut software. This would reduce our quarterly payment to $19,374. So at this point, we would like to ask the board's approval for us to enter into this new lease, which will allow us to replace our old copiers, monochrome, in addition to add 13 color copiers in our buildings for our faculty, staff, and student use.
Thank you, Mr. Akiba. You heard the recommendation. There's quite a bit going on there, so I'm just going to go ahead and repeat that recommendation to the board. Recommendation is to approve the lease of 35 monochrome and 13 color copiers from Ricoh USA at a quarterly payment of $21,855 for 7 years from Ricoh USA. Ricoh USA will credit the Crown Point Community School Corporation $36,000 for its old fleet of copiers. Crown Point Community School Corporation has the option to apply that $36,000 to the cost of the paper cut software for 5 years. This would reduce the quarterly payment to $19,374 for years 6 and 7. Crown Point Community School Corporation will need to pay about $3,100 per year in maintenance and support for the paper cut software. Do we have a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Babjack, second by Mr. Hoffman. Any questions or comments for Mr. Akiwa?
Artie, do they maintain these machines?
Yes, they do.
And what is this paper cut software?
It's just software that allows us to utilize this and send, our printing requests to the machines and have it speak, yeah.
So allow someone to print, then you walk up to it, release it, it doesn't automatically just shoot it out.
Yeah. It's really convenient the way we're able to print now with our current RICO. I can actually send something to the RICO machines, and I could be working in my office, I could have a meeting in another building, and I could go log into that machine in another building, and it'll print there. So it kind of parks it until we're ready to access and print it wherever we want.
As Scott Babjack pointed out before, I think we just made copy moms and dads very happy across our school district with this, so.
What? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Kiwa. And we have 5.4, approve the 2022 budget forms and resolutions. Mr. Reese.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Tonight is your last official step regarding the 2022 budgets. We advertised, public hearings were held on September 27th for the capital projects and bus replacement plans, on October 6th for the overall budgets. The only change in your budget since the public hearing is on Form 4, where we've reduced, as we mentioned, public hearing. We're waiting to see what the new debt issuance was going to be like. We made sure we budgeted enough money both in the levy and in the budget for 2022. With that debt issuance now been issued, we were able to reduce those amounts fairly significantly, a little over $7 million in both accounts, to get more in line with where our payments are expected to be for 2022 out of debt service. Those are the only changes. No changes in the capital projects or bus replacement plans as we presented to you during the public hearings. So with that, we're recommending approval of Resolution 805, which is our Form 4, Resolution 806, which is the 2022 through 2024 capital projects plan, and Resolution 807, which is the 2022 bus replacement plan. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. Heard recommendation to approve the 2022 budgets, the 22 to 24 capital projects plan, and 22 to 26 school bus replacement plan, and the corresponding forms of resolutions. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve resolutions 805, 806, and 807.
Motion by Mr. Hoffman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Angel. Any questions or comments for Mr. Reese?
Thank you on the board's behalf, Matt, for all the work behind the scenes on this one, obviously to get us within what we need to be able to move forward for next year and the year after.
Yeah. Questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Reese. And Mr. Reese, looks like it's back to you for the new middle school bid package number 2.
That's correct. This is the second bid package for the new Taft Middle School. There were 17 bid categories. We did receive over 67 bids across those 17 categories. With that, we are recommending 15 of the bid categories, or 15 contracts, totaling $41,486,212. That is under our budget of $44 million. Along with that, we'll have the notice to proceed and the corresponding, sorry, the word I'm looking for is escaping me right now. Alternate bids that were also included. Apologize for that. So with that, we're recommending approval of those 15 contracts and notice proceeds for the new Taft Middle School and second bid package. Mr. Katsouris is here from Skillman Corporation if you have any specific questions regarding any of the categories.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. You've heard the recommendation to approve the 15 bids from Mr. Reese. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the 15 bids and defer category number 12 and categories 12 and 13.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hoffman and second by Mr. Angel. Do you have any questions or comments either for Mr. Reese or Deanne Caceres from Skillman this evening.
Deanna, looking at the bids being awarded, these are all people that we've done work with before, is that correct?
Correct. Now, there are some contractors that didn't bid, smaller contractors, that the scope may have been a little too large for them, maybe from a bonding capacity perspective. You have a very good group of contractors representing this project.
Questions or comments?
Thank you to both of your help and input. We know that's not easy, especially when you're getting 67 bids over so many different types, so we appreciate your work in getting that to us so we can keep moving that project ahead.
Appreciate the opportunity.
If I may jump in, I want to thank Dion. He and Scott Sherry and I went to several of the union halls just to kind of present our project groups as they came up, to put it out there to really, in my opinion, help recruit people who are interested in bidding, companies who are interested in bidding on this project. And I think it's evidence when you look at the number of bids that we had, as well as coming in a little under, especially right now in the inflation we're seeing. So Dion, thank you, and Scott for your work in this. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And unrelated to this project, I will mention that the high school project is out to bid right now. We had a pre-bid meeting on Friday at the high school. Incredible participation. There were probably 40 in attendance. We had some other contractors meet us out there today. So again, great interest in that project. It's going to be bidding November 11th. So assuming all comes in well, the 11th, be back here at the November board meeting doing a similar thing for that.
We enjoy having you, Dion.
I enjoy being here.
You know, a shameless plug too is the amount of money that we're putting back into our local economy through these projects is noted as well for all those who are working with it, from those who are supplying the materials as well locally. So it's paying back multiple things, not just creating the best environment for our kids, but also then turning around and putting money back into the pockets of those who live here within our community and within our region.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's wrap this up with a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Reese and Dion. Mr. Caceres. We are finished with the action items. We're going to go to information items. We have superintendent discussion groups. Does anybody have anything to report this evening from?
Nothing really new from Crown Point.
Got it. And we can move to Director of Secondary Education, Mr. Gianfermi.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. I just have one informational item for the board. On November 5th, we will return to an in-person chamber town for all our 8th grade students. If you're familiar with that program, it's a partnership with the Crossroads Regional Chamber of Commerce, and they supply all kind of business people, public safety workers, and community volunteers. And our 8th graders then, after a series of lessons on work readiness, citizenship, financial literacy, they go through a series of stations manned by all these people that are provided through Crossroads Chamber of Commerce. And it's good to have that back in person. This year it's significant because, as we talked about earlier in the year, we have a college and career preparatory class that every 8th grader at Taft and Wheeler is having the opportunity to complete this first semester and earn a high school credit. So this will be a final project that we wove right in there. So it's good to see the high school, middle school, and the community all come together to really benefit our kids. So we're glad to see that in person. And November 5th, Colonel Wheeler Gym, if you have time, stop by because kids really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Gianfermi. And Director of Exceptional Education, Ms. Paskus.
Good evening. So in our journey to educate building leaders and our building staff on what makes special education so special, a few weeks ago we were able to spend a few hours after school with all of our building administrators and had a local special education attorney provide some training on discipline and special education law, because our students with IEPs are afforded some due process rights that can get complicated. So that was just a very informative, useful session. Our diagnostic teams are also, these first few months of school, taking time with each of the school staffs to explain the referral and evaluation process to the school staff, so they're clear on what that looks like and who may be appropriate for evaluation.
Thank you, Ms. Paskus. Yeah, we reshuffled the lineup this evening, Mr. Harmon. We have the
you
Chief
sure
Academic
did.
Officer, Mr. Harmon.
Well,
Yeah.
I wanted to just comment on some of the work that's being done in our mathematics programming throughout the school district. This has been an area of focus, with added focus, actually, as we brought in the math specialists at elementary and secondary levels. And we also know that there's an alignment to the new SAT that's coming, that's going to be administered in March. So we're working towards aligning our learning goals, as well as the instruction, as well as the interventions for our students. We're looking at some of the programming at Crown Point High School to really enhance the opportunities for our students to be successful in mathematics and be college and career ready as they leave Crown Point High School. So just to let you know that this has been an area, as you've seen some of the data in the past, that we've been focusing on, and I do believe that the work of Mr. Gianfermi and Mrs. Ramirez, working with our specialists, and then also thinking about our exceptional learners area, students that need some, we need to have accommodations and unique ways of teaching mathematics. That's been another area I think that we're growing in and working towards to really enhance what our math instruction is and student learning in mathematics. I'm excited as to what the future holds for mathematics in Crown Point Community School Corporation.
Thank you, Mr. Harmon. Chief Human Resources Officer, Mr. Akiwa.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one update, sticking to the partnering with outside organizations that help support the Crown Point Community School Corporation. We recently have connected once again with the Maryville Rotary Club. Anna Granfield is our connection there for the Clothing Our Children fundraiser. We've really been fortunate to partner with this particular organization over the last, I think, 5 to 10 years. And they provide us with Kohl's clothing vouchers or gift cards to provide to families in need here in the Crown Point Community School Corporation. So we're very excited to have made that connection to begin this effort to make sure that we get these particular vouchers in the hands of our needy families in the Crown Point Community School Corporation. We'd just like to thank them for working with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
On that note, I've participated in that event for many years, but the numbers of dollars that they have raised and the shoes and coats and things that they've provided for children in multiple school corporations is pretty staggering. So
Agreed. Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Alford.
Thank you, Mr. Kiwa. Business Department, Mr. Reese.
I'm going to save the good news out of the business department for Dr. Terrell this evening. Let him share with you the good news that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. And, Director of Communications, Ms. Allen.
Thank you. You might know that some members of our team meet monthly with first responders from the city of Crown Point and Winfield, Cedar Lake, and we talk through crisis scenarios, sometimes emergency situations, in an effort to form a really good partnership about how we would handle those situations. This last month, I actually met one-on-one with Adam Graper from the city of Crown Point. We chatted and collaborated about how we would work together in certain emergency situations to make sure we're informing parents as quickly as we can. It's never fast enough when you're a parent, I know that, but as fast as we can to make sure that parents are our first priority in an emergency along with our staff, and just getting the word out there should anything happen. It's a lot of behind the scenes work that I quite honestly hope no one ever sees, that we don't have to use it, but I do think that we are better prepared now than what we would have been a couple months ago.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Also, on a apologize, I mentioned it briefly last meeting, but then bring it back to the board's attention that you had an attachment in last month's agenda that I didn't notice pre-meeting. I looked at it afterwards, and it was extensive strategic communication plan. Not sure if everybody saw it, but if you didn't, please look back to last month's meeting notes, and Ms. Allen prepared it was 11 or 13 pages or something like that, an attachment of the corporation's strategic plan for communication. And but thank you for setting it up, and hope we could accomplish everything in there. We have Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Terrell.
So I want to start by thanking Mr. Reese for allowing me to share this information this evening with you. Last Thursday, we had a successful bond sale. Want to report to you that we were able to sell 247, just a little bit north of that, $1 million in bonds that will really allow us to do all of the projects that we have brought to you, more than expected originally. And we appreciate the work of all of our partners in that venture. Also, we benefited from some really good rates that were out there right now based off of what we're seeing across our country. This will allow us to complete all of the projects that we have brought to you and we've discussed, with the addition of a couple of additional projects that will meet needs that we have throughout our corporation. We'll be able to meet the additional costs associated with supplies and or labor as we go through this project over the next 3 years, and will allow us to still remain below our projected payment by more than $2 million. So we're really excited about that, and that puts us in a really good position to continue to address additional needs as they present themselves throughout the coming years. One of our concerns was that we weren't putting all of our eggs into one basket, and then if things happened, that we wouldn't be able to deal with those as well. So this has really set us up to be in a really good place for that. So thank you all for your willingness as we go into this to lead through this with many great projects and updates that are coming. Along that same line, I want to give you a project update as you saw tonight. Moving forward with the bids for Taft, which is really exciting. And then as Dion mentioned, the bids are out there now for the high school project. And we expect both Timothy Ball and MacArthur to be out on the street in February-ish. So we're moving right along with those projects. One note, the groundbreaking for Taft is supposed to be Friday. With the 2 to 5, 6 inches of rain we've received, we're not sure that that's going to be doable without everyone getting stuck and wearing hip waders out there on the site right now. So we will let you know. We'll probably make a call on that tomorrow afternoon, Wednesday morning at the latest, to let you know so you can adjust your plans accordingly as well. Look forward to a great opportunity out there to really celebrate that with a meaningful ceremony as well. So just want to give you a heads up on that, and we'll keep you posted as we go forward.
Thank you, Dr. Terrell. And we have other business of the board to discuss, but so Dr. Terrell just made the comment about hip waders, and I happened to catch Mr. Mulaski's eyes back there making, he was making a face in the corner, not realizing they was looking like directed to the baby that Mr. Christoph is holding right now. I thought that was pretty comical, but look like you're doing a good job entertaining over there.
Mike's good at looking funny.
I was waiting for to start doing the do we have any other business of the board to discuss this evening? If nothing, right on the tip of the tongue, I'd like to just make quick comment on our high school student, Bill McCall. And Bill, thank you for coming for comments this evening. Thank you for the email. Whatever the outcome of your request may be, I think the way you represented yourself as a Crown Point High School athlete there's nothing more than that any one of us could ask of a student athlete. So appreciate your email, appreciate you coming. We know we have hurdles that may not be able to be overcome for this event, but I will say also, as Mr. Christoph said very well this evening, you want to know that what you say here is heard and followed through on, however, whatever the outcome may be, that, you know, it's acknowledged and some action has taken place, or if there isn't an action, to let you know why or where it dies. I think that was very well said earlier, and I want to come back and make comment on that email you sent us. So thank you, and best of luck regardless of the outcome, and appreciate you coming. Any other business of the board to discuss this evening? We could always circle back at the end here with statements of appreciation if anybody thinks of something new. We jump into the statements of appreciation and recognition. Mr. Smith?
I don't have any.
Mr. Babjack?
Nothing for me.
Mr. Hoffman?
I do have one this evening. I want to recognize, actually, my surgeon, Dr. Anton Tompkins, his wife, and a friend of hers years ago started a company in Maryville called Be Nutty. And they're peanut butter specialty items. And I just glanced here, they've expanded to a 17,000 square foot production facility. They're women-owned, MBE certified, and in talking with Dr. Tompkins, they started this as a soccer fundraiser. And they've expanded and expanded and expanded to the point where he informed me that they're in 6,000 stores in 6 different countries. All of the profits go for educational purposes. They help underwrite ACTs and SATs and things like that for high school kids, and try and provide them counseling to go on to bigger aspirations than they might otherwise have. And he said his wife is working 16 hours a day with no compensation. So you've got to reach out and thank people like that who do things for such charitable purposes. Particularly, I informed him, I says, you're talking education. I'm a near 20-year school board member. So you don't have to preach to the choir. So I want to thank them for their effort.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Mr. Angel?
I don't have anything this evening.
Now, for myself, Dr. Terrell presented me with some information from the Crossroads Regional Chamber of Commerce. They do the Inspiring Educator Awards, and we have some nominees from Crown Point. I think it'd be a nice time to read their names off and recognize them as being nominated for this Inspire Educator Award. We had Sarah Pearson from Colonel Wheeler, Devin Lewis from Taft, Jory Dussault from Eisenhower, Kristen Albrecht from Lake Street, Angela Hummel from MacArthur, Kathleen Zacharias from Solon, Marianne Howarth, I believe it is, from Timothy Ball, Sarah Saxon from Jerry Ross, Lindsay Eastling from Winfield, and Amy Burkham from Crown Point High School. So, Dr. Terrell, thank you for sharing with us, and they deserve to be recognized for being nominated. Anything else before we look for a motion to adjourn? Dr. Terrell? We're good?
Nothing. Appreciate it.
A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hoffman,
Second?
second by Mr. Angel. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.